who's he have? I'm the guy supposed to be in trouble. We raised $38 million within 4 days after this. We have over a million different triggers.
And go with them
Different triggers.
M's again.
That's less than $200. Well,
they got Joe mad. Yeah, they got Joe mad. That done made Joe mad. I don't know. This reporter might work for. He sound like he worked for Fox. I ain't saying he do, but he could. He coming at Joe. Joe really getting mad at him. Joe ain't trying to hear that. Joe is not trying to hear that. Joe say he ain't going nowhere. He ain't trying to hear that. Let me see. Y'all right. Joe ain't trying to hear this shit. He's not trying to hear this shit. Let me get to the other part. Hold on.
If you want to feel your energy levels skyrocket, you've got to try out the sporting complex by
the thing about his interview. The thing about his interview is it had to be live and it couldn't be no teleprompters. So, like that was requests made by like everybody. Like he had to do it with no teleprompters and no, it had to be live. Like it couldn't be. I guess a lot of his stuff was on teleprompters and editors or whatever. So everything they asking him right here, this whole interview right here is live. It just ended. I don't know, like 45 minutes ago or something like that. I told y'all I'm not into politics, but this is just interesting to me. Like these two going at. Y'all, I don't know if y'all ever seen that movie Grumpy Old Men. Y'all ever seen Grumpy Old Men? It make me laugh like that. Like it's like in the stuff they asking Joe. Man, Joe is 82. I keep saying this. He 82 years old, man. What are you expecting him to his voice is like a 82-year-old's. It ain't loud. It's like, but he's still like, I think he wanna put boxing gloves on with Trump. That's what I think. I think Joe really, it don't matter what nobody say to Joe. I think he really believe he can whoop. Yeah, I think he wanna box him. Because just because you get older don't mean that you really, especially if you're an alpha male, it's gonna go nowhere. It don't mean nothing. You just a old alpha male. Joe is his mind is telling him he can win. He can in every way, whether he fight him, debate him, run against him for the president, whatever. Joe mind is telling him, you can do, but when he go to speak it is where he losing them at. But this reporter ain't making it no better. I'm gonna tell y'all now. Well, this reporter, this is ABC. He'll say his name. Hold on, let me get it right. Oh, I see him. Yep. All right. Let me see if I can get it where y'all can see it. What's Joe say? I'm going nowhere. He ain't playing either. Let me see something.
Jeopardy Masters will be seen after this from 8.
Edition of This Week. President Joe Biden, his first television interview since the debate. The news-making exclusive. Now reporting from Madison, Wisconsin, George Stephanopoulos.
Good evening from Madison, Wisconsin for a special edition of This Week. The first broadcast interview with President Biden since last week's debate. Earlier this afternoon, we taped the 22-minute interview. There are no cuts, no edits. We have not touched it. At this pivotal moment in the presidential campaign, here it is. Mr. President, thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the debate. You and your team have said you had a bad night, but your friend Nancy Pelosi actually framed the question that I think is on the minds of millions of Americans. Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You know, you say you were exhausted, and I know you've said that before as well, but you came, and you did have a tough month, but you came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days in Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time every time?
Because I told y'all that's his name, George Stephanopoulos or whatever. That's the reporter.
I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the doc's with me. I asked if they did a COVID test. We were trying to figure out what's wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. I just had a really bad cold.
And did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
Well, what I want to get at is, what were you experiencing as you were going through the debate? Did you know how badly it was going?
Yeah, look, the whole way I prepared, nobody's fault, mine. Nobody's fault but mine. I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down, as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council, for explicit detail. And I realized partway through that, I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times. The way the debate ran, not my fault, nobody else's fault. No one else's fault.
But it seemed like you were having trouble from the first question in, even before he spoke.
Well, I just had a bad night.
I just had a bad night.
Once in a while. I can't remember any, but I'm sure you did.
I've had plenty. I guess the problem is here for a lot of Americans watching, as you've said, going back to 2020, watch me. Yeah. To people who are concerned about your age. And, 50 million Americans watched that debate. It seemed to confirm fears they already had.
Well, look, after that debate, it had 10 major events.
I guess the question
they already, because it was live, so they already starting on the chat. Like, before they can get into the interview good, this whole thing, it's finna be full. And I think that went out like about an hour ago.
The problem is here for a lot of Americans watching, as you've said, going back to 2020, watch me. Yeah. To people who are concerned about your age. And, 50 million Americans watched that debate. It seemed to confirm fears they already had.
Well, after that debate, it had 10 major events in a row, including till 2 o'clock after that debate.
Don't risk losing the photos and videos from your phone. This innovative device makes it easy to back up your smartphone in seconds.
I did events in North Carolina. I did events in Georgia. I did events like this today. Large crowds, overwhelming response, no slipping. And so I just had a bad night. I don't know why.
And how quickly did it come to you that you were having that bad night?
Well, it came to me as having a bad night when I realized that even when I was answering a question, when they turned his mic off, he was still shouting. And I let it distract me. I'm not blaming it on that.
You ain't got a Joe. Ain't got a Joe. You 82. You 82 years old. They cut his mic off. He was still yelling at you, and it distracted you, Joe. You ain't got just don't explain no more.
I just wasn't in control.
There you go.
Part of the other concern is that this seems to have fit into a pattern of decline that has been reported on recently. New York Times had a headline on July 2nd, Biden's lapses are said to be increasingly common and worrisome. Here's what they wrote. People who have spent time with President Biden over the last few months or so said the lapses appear to have grown more frequent, more pronounced, and after Thursday's debate, more worrisome. By many accounts, as evidenced by video footage, observation, and interviews, Mr. Biden is not the same today as he was even when he took office 3.5 years ago. Similar reporting in the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. Are you the same man today that you were when you took office 3.5 years ago?
In terms of successes, yes. I also was the guy who put together a peace plan for the Middle East that may be coming to fruition. I was also the guy that expanded NATO. I was also the guy that grew the economy. All the individual things that were done were ideas I had or I fulfilled. I moved on. And so, for example, well, that was true then. What's Biden done lately? It's just today, just announced 200,000 new jobs. We're moving in a direction that no one's ever taken on. I know you know this from the days in the government. I took on Big Pharma. I beat them. No one said I could beat them. I took on all the things we said we got done. We were told we couldn't get done. And part of it is what I said when I ran was I wanted to do 3 things. Restore some decency to the office. Restore some support for the middle class instead of trickle-down economics, go from the middle out and the bottom up. That way the wealthy still do fine, everyone does better. And unite the country.
But what has all that work over the last 3.5 years cost you physically, mentally, emotionally?
Well, I just think it cost me a really bad night, a bad run. But, George, I'm optimistic about this country.
George,
I don't think we're a country of losers, he points out. I don't think America's in tough shape. I think America's on the cusp of breaking through in so many incredible opportunities. This next term, I'm going to make sure we have straighten out the tax system. I'm going to make sure we're in a situation where we have health care for all people. Or in a position where we have child care and elder care, free up, and all these things. One thing I'm proudest of is, remember when my economic plan was put forward, a lot of the mainstream economists said it's not going to work. Well, guess what? We now have 16 Nobel laureates, 16 of them in economics, saying that Biden's next term would be, based on what he wants to do, enormous success. Trump's plan would cause a recession, would significantly increase inflation. I've made great progress, and that's what I plan on doing, and we can do this.
I understand that, and I'm not disputing that. What I'm asking you is about your personal situation. Do you dispute that there have been more lapses, especially in the last several months?
See, you keep calling them lapses, but what he's saying is pauses in between his speech. But he 82, so he gonna pause between speeches. That's all I'm saying. I don't give a damn who win, but I don't know what I don't know what they want 82-year-old to do, man.
Can I run the 110 flat? No, but I'm still in good shape.
Are you more frail?
No.
I know you just asked Joe if he more frail. Joe said no. Joe is, see, I told y'all his mind say he could do anything. Joe is 82. Joe is frail. I don't give you 80 anything. You're free. It's not down talking nothing. Your ass aged. You're frail. Your bones got to be frail. They're 82 years old.
I'll keep my schedule.
I know you spoke with your doctor after the debate. What did he say?
He said, he just looked at me. He said, "You're exhausted." I said, "Look, I have medical doctors travel me everywhere, every president does.
I know you do, Joe.
Medical doctors, some of the best in the world, travel me everywhere I go. I have an ongoing assessment of what I'm doing. And they don't hesitate to tell me if they think there's something wrong."
I know you said you have an ongoing assessment. Have you had a full neurological and cognitive evaluation?
I get a full neurological test every day with me. And I've had a full physical. I had, I've been at Walter Reed for my physicals. Yes. The answer.
I know your doctor said he consulted with a neurologist. I guess I'm asking a slightly different question. Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
Damn it, Joe. He asking you if you had a neurologist do a test, like to make sure you ain't like got early on sick. See, Joe is.
No one said I had to. No one said.
Joe said no one said I had.
Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
No one said I had to. No one said. They said I'm good.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test.
No, Joe.
Woohoo! Summer! Want an easy way to save money for your summer beach trip?
The
everything I do. Not only am I campaigning, but I'm running the world. And that's not how it sounds like hyperbole. But we are the essential nation in the world. Madeleine Albright was right.
Yes,
every single day. For example, today, before I come out here, I'm on the phone with the Prime Minister I shouldn't get into detail, but with Netanyahu. I'm on the phone with the new Prime Minister of England. I'm working on what we're doing with regard
Joe.
In Europe with regard to expansion of NATO and whether it's going to stick. I'm taking on Putin. Every day, there's no day I go through that are not those decisions I have to make every single day.
And you have been doing that, and the American people have been watching, yet their concerns about your age and your health are growing. So that's why I'm asking to reassure them to be willing to have the independent medical evaluation.
Watch me between. There's a lot of time left in this campaign.
It's yes or no,
Joe. Over 125 days.
So the answer,
decision.
The right
Wait a minute.
medical evaluation.
Got the answer.
What?
To reassure them, would you be willing to have the independent medical evaluation?
Watch me between. There's a lot of time left in this campaign. It's over 125 days.
So the answer,
decision.
The right answer right now is no. You don't want to do that right now.
I've already done it.
You talked a lot about your successes at the beginning of this interview, and I don't want to dispute that. I don't want to debate that. But as you know, elections are about the future, not the past. They're about tomorrow, not yesterday. And the question on so many people's minds right now is, can you serve effectively for the next 4 years?
George, I'm the guy that put NATO together, the future. No one thought I could expand it. I'm the guy that shut Putin down. No one thought could happen. I'm the guy that put together the South Pacific Initiative with AUKUS. I'm the guy that got 50 nations, not only in Europe, outside of Europe as well, to help Ukraine. I'm the guy that got Japanese to expand their budget. For example, when I decided we used to have 40% of the computer chip, and we invented the chip, that little chip for the computer chip. It's in everything from cell phone to weapons. And so we used to have 40%, we're down to virtually nothing. So I get in the plane against the advice of everybody, and I fly to South Korea. I convinced them to invest in the United States billions of dollars. Now we have tens of billions of dollars being invested in the United States, making us back in a position where we're going to own that industry again.
Well, where's it going, Joe?
Anyway. I don't want to take too much credit. I have a great staff.
Goddamn, Joe.
I guess my point is...
You got to finish the question, Joe.
Anyway, I don't want to take too much credit. I have a great staff.
But I guess my point is all that takes a toll. Do you have the mental and physical capacity to do it for another 4 years?
Please, I wouldn't be running if I didn't think I did. Look, I'm running again because I think I understand best what has to be done to take this nation to a completely new level. We're on our way. We're on our way. And look, the decision to be made by the Supreme Court on immunity. You know, the next president of the United States, it's not just about whether he or she knows what they're doing. It's not about a conglomerate of people making decisions. It's about the character of the president. The character of the president is going to determine whether or not this Constitution is employed the right way.
Let me ask you a tougher, more personal question. Are you sure you're being honest with yourself when you say you have the mental and physical capacity to serve another 4 years?
Yes, I am, because George, the last thing I want to do is not be able to meet that.
Damn.
I think as a senior economist and senior foreign policy,
are you sure you're being honest with yourself when you say you have the mental and physical capacity to serve another 4 years?
Yes, I am, because George, the last thing I want to do is not be able to meet that. I think as some of the senior economists and senior foreign policy specialists say, if I stop now, I go down in history as a pretty successful president. No one thought I could get done what we got done.
But are you being honest with yourself as well about your ability to defeat Donald Trump right now?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
You say that, and let me challenge you.
Sure.
Because you were close, but behind going into the debate. You're further behind now by any measure. It's been a two-man race for several months. Inflation has come down. In those last few months, he's become a convicted felon, yet you're still falling further behind.
You guys keep saying that. George, you know polling better than anybody. Do you think polling data is accurate as it used to be?
I don't think so, but I think when you look at all of the polling data right now, it shows that he's certainly ahead in the popular vote, probably even more ahead in the battleground states. And one of the other key factors there is it shows that in many of the battleground states, the Democrats who are running for Senate and the House are doing better than you are.
That's not unusual in some states. I carried an awful lot of Democrats last time I ran in 2020. Look, I remember them telling me the same thing in 2020. I can't win. The polls show I can't win. Remember 2020, the red wave was coming. Before the vote, I said, that's not going to happen. We're going to win. We did better in an off year than almost any incumbent president ever has done. They said in 2023, all the tough races, we're not going to win. I went into all those areas, all those districts, and we won.
All that is true, but 2020 was a close race. And your approval rating has dropped significantly since then. I think the last poll I saw was about 36%. The number of Americans who think you're too old to serve has doubled since 2020. Wouldn't a clear-eyed political calculus tell you that it's going to be much tougher to win in 2024?
See, if Joe wouldn't have fell off that damn bike and fell up the stairs, he probably, they probably wouldn't be saying he too old, but that messed him up when Joe fell off the bike and went up the stairs.
Not when you're running against
I think the last poll I saw was about 36%. The number of Americans who think you're too old.
If you in here, hit the like button. That's free. You can take, it takes a second. Hit the like button. It do something to help with YouTube. I'm trying to see what Joe mind at.
I went into all those areas, all those districts, and we won.
All that is true, but 2020 was a close race. And your approval rating has dropped significantly since then. I think the last poll I saw was about 36%. The number of Americans who think you're too old to serve has doubled since 2020. Wouldn't a clear-eyed political calculus tell you that it's going to be much tougher to win in 2024?
Not when you're running against a pathological liar. Not when he hadn't been challenged in a way that he's about to be challenged.
Say goodbye to old costly cable TV once and for all. This revolutionary invention gives you access.
You're gonna have to.
Not when people.
You've had months to challenge him.
Oh, sure, I had months, but I was a pathological liar. Not when he hadn't been challenged in a way that he's about to be challenged. Not when people.
You've had months to challenge him.
Oh, sure, I had months, but I was also doing a hell of a lot of other things, like wars around the world, like keeping NATO together, like working anyway. So look,
do you really believe you're not behind right now?
I think it's all pollsters I talk to tell me it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. And when I'm behind, there's only one poll I'm really far behind: CBS poll and NBC. And
New York Times and NBC both have you about 6
points. 10 points ahead of me behind. Nothing's changed substantially from the New York Times poll.
Just when you look at the reality, though, Mr. President, I mean, you won the popular vote in 2020, but it was still deadly close in the electoral college.
7 million votes.
Yes, but you're behind now in the popular vote.
I don't buy that.
Is it worth the risk?
I don't think anybody's more qualified to be president or win this race than me.
You know, the heart of your case against Donald Trump is that he's only out for himself, putting his personal interest ahead of the national interest. How do you respond to critics who say that by staying in the race, you're doing the same thing?
Oh, come on. Well, I don't think those critics know what they're talking about.
They're just wrong?
It's wrong. Look, Trump is a pathological liar. Trump is, he is. Have you ever seen anything Trump did that benefited somebody else, not him? You can't answer, I know.
I've questioned him and his allies as persistently as any journalist has.
No, I know you have. I'm not being critical.
Yeah.
I'm not being critical. But look, I mean, the man is a congenital liar. As I said, they pointed out in that debate he lied 27, 28 times the times, or whatever number, over 20 times. Talk about how good his economy was, how he brought down inflation, how this is a guy who, unlike only other president other than him, is Hoover, lost more jobs than he created. This is a guy who told us to put bleach in our arms to deal with COVID, with over a million people died. This is the guy who talks about wanting to get rid of the healthcare provision we put in place. This is the guy who wants to give the power back to big pharma to be able to charge exorbitant prices for drugs. This is the guy who wants to undo every single thing I've done. Every single thing.
I understand that, and I understand that's why you want to stay in the race, but have you convinced yourself that only you can defeat him?
I convinced myself of two things. I'm the most qualified person to beat him, and I know how to get things done.
If you can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
It depends if the Lord Almighty comes out and tells me that, I might do that.
Well, I mean, on a more practical level, Washington Post just reported in the last hour that Senator Mark Warner is assembling a group of senators together to try and convince you to stand down because they don't think you can win.
Well, Mark is a good man. We've never had that. He also tried to get the nomination too. Mark's not. Mark and I have a different perspective. I respect him.
Hold on, whoever Mark is, he just said Mark a good man, but Mark the one assembling whatever he just said. What they doing? They gonna put somebody up there for Joe? Or they gonna get?
In the last hour, that Senator Mark Warner is assembling a group of senators together to try and convince you to stand down because they don't think you can win.
I respect him.
And if Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi come down and say, we're worried that if you stay in the race, we're going to lose the House and the Senate, how will you respond?
I go into detail with them. I've spoken to all of them in detail, including Jim Clyburn. Every one of them. They all said I should stay in the race. Stay in the race. None of the people said I should leave.
But if they do?
Well, it's like, they're not going to do that.
You sure?
They ain't gonna do that.
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came out and said, Joe, get out of the race, I get out of the race, the Lord Almighty's not coming down. I mean, these hypotheticals, George, but
it's not that hypothetical anymore. I grant that they have not requested the meeting, but it's been reported.
I've met with them. I've met with a lot of these people. I've talked with them regularly. I had an hour conversation with Hakeem. I had more time with them with Jim Clyburn. I spent time with many hours off and on the last little bit with Chuck Schumer. It's not like I had all the governors. I agree that the Lord Almighty is not going to come down, but if you are told reliably from your allies, from your friends and supporters in the Democratic Party, in the House and the Senate, that they're concerned you're going to lose the House and the Senate if you stay in, what will you do? I'm not going to answer that question. It's not going to happen.
Joe say he ain't answering that question. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. He ain't answering that.
What's your plan to turn the campaign around?
What was that face, Joe?
I'm not going to answer that question. It's not going to happen.
What's your plan to turn the campaign around?
You saw it today. How many people you get draw crowds like I drew today? You find many more enthusiastic than today? Huh?
I don't think you want to play the crowd game. Donald Trump can draw big crowds. There's no question about that.
He can draw a big crowd, but what's he say? Who's he have? I'm the guy supposedly in trouble. We raised $38 million within 4 days after this.
I told y'all, we all need to just run for president, because these niggas is racking up 30 million. What Trump said, well, he be exaggerating, but yeah, we brought in over 200 billion for this campaign. He just said they just brought in, how much he said? Right after.
Play the crowd game. Donald Trump can draw big crowds. There's no question about that.
He can draw a big crowd, but what's he say? Who's he have? I'm the guy supposedly in trouble. We raised $38 million within 4 days after this. We have over 1 million individual contributors. Individual contributors. That's less than $200. I mean, I've not seen what you're proposing.
You haven't seen the fall off in the polls. You haven't seen the reports of discontent in the Democratic Party, House Democrats, Senate Democrats.
I've seen it from the press.
They love you. And they will be forever grateful to you for defeating Donald Trump in 2020. They think you've done a great job as president, a lot of the successes you outlined. But they are worried about you and the country, and they don't think you can win. They want you to go with grace, and they will cheer you if you do. What do you say to them?
I say the vast majority are not where those folks are. I don't doubt there's some folks there. Have you ever seen a group at a time when elected officials running for office are a little worried? Have you ever seen that? I've not. Same thing happened in 2020. Biden, I don't know, man. What's he going to do? He may bring me down. He may.
Mr. President, I've never seen a president at 36% approval get reelected.
Well, I don't believe that's my approval. That's not what our polls show.
And if you stay in and Trump is elected and everything you're warning about comes to pass, how will you feel in January?
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about. Look, George, think of it this way. You've heard me say this before. I think the United States and the world is at an inflection point where the things that happen in the next several years are going to determine what the next 6-7 decades look like. And who's going to be able to hold NATO together like me? Who's going to be able to be in a position where I'm able to keep the Pacific Basin in a position where we're at least checkmating China now? Who's going to do that? Who has that reach? Who knows all this? You're going to have, I guess, one good way to judge me is you're going to have now the NATO conference here in the United States next week. Come listen. See what they say.
Mr. President, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
ABC News also offered a one-on-one interview to Donald Trump after the debate. He declined. Let's bring in our political team for what they're hearing. Let me start out with our chief Washington correspondent, John Carl. And John, you watched.
They all, pretty much all, think Joe need to drop out. All like.
You watched the interview. You've been talking to people all across Washington. What are you hearing?
Well, George, look, Biden looked better and certainly more coherent than he looked during the debate. But there was nothing in this interview that is calming nerves of jittery Democrats who fear that Joe Biden is on a trajectory to lose this race, to lose to Donald Trump. In fact, for some of those people, the interview is raising new concerns, particularly the fact that he is unwilling or unaware of the fact that he is in a dire situation here regarding the campaign, that he is losing in the view of many Democrats. And frankly, in the polls you cited, that he is losing to Donald Trump. And there was one question that you asked where his answer is particularly, I believe, alarming to some of those Democrats. You asked him how he will feel in January if he has lost to Donald Trump and all that he has warned would happen came to pass. And this was his answer. He said, I'll feel as long as I gave it my all and did the best job I know I can do, that's what this is about. One prominent ally of the president simply responded to me, wow, when I asked about that question. So the bottom line here, there was nothing in this interview that will force Joe Biden out of the race. There was no, major thing that will convince him or any of his allies. I believe they have to go, but there's also nothing in this interview that will calm the nerves of Democrats who are saying it is time for him to get out.
I told y'all Joe say he ain't going no damn well. Joe denied everything and said he ain't going no damn well. They can keep all these up. They still shooting firecrackers. Joe ain't going no damn well. They gonna have to, bruh, the same way they almost had to carry Trump out the White House, that's how they gonna have to do Joe. Joe is 82 years old, and he said he ain't going no damn well.
Martha Raddatz, the president is talking to a lot of people, but he appears to be listening to a very tight circle.
A very tight circle, and administration officials I have spoken to said that very tight inner circle is telling them he can win, that he needs to keep going. This, of course, includes his wife, Jill, who they said is lashing out at those who want him to get out of the race. This was a Joe Biden pumped up on his inner circle, telling him that again and again.
Well, let Jill, talk at the next debate. Joe is... How old is Jill? Hold on. Jill sound like she got a fire in her ass. She needed somebody. You got to fuss back with Trump. You can't stutter in stuff.
He needs to keep going. This, of course, includes his wife, Jill, who they said is lashing out at those who want him to get out of the race. This was a Joe Biden pumped up on his inner circle, telling him that again and again. They think he will have many opportunities, but those not in the inner circle say this will also expose him to a great deal of risk. And George, I've talked to a few people too, and texting with a few people as well on the Hill. They say it was better than they expected, wasn't as bad as they expected, but that's a pretty low bar, George.
And Mary Bruce, what are you hearing from the White House?
George, the White House tonight reacting in one word, strong. Look, you heard the president there, and his team strongly do believe that this is all being overblown, that Joe Biden has been underestimated and written off before, only to come back strong and win. They believe if he can continue to do interviews like this, if he can continue to get out in front of the American people, that this too shall pass. But the president there truly didn't seem to grasp the severity of this moment, the magnitude of that growing chorus of concern from Democrats. He dismissed the trends that we are seeing in the polls. But what we are hearing from Democrats isn't concern about one bad night. They are concerned that Joe Biden doesn't have what it takes not only to continue governing, but that he has what it takes to win. But the president is adamant that he is still the best one to take on Donald Trump. And you heard there, he clearly doesn't want to entertain the possibility that Democrats may come to him and urge him to step aside, saying only the Lord Almighty could convince him of that, George.
And that is the key question right now. So I want to go to our senior congressional correspondent, Rachel Scott. The most important audience probably right now for the president and the White House are those Democratic leaders on Capitol Hill. And there has been some ferment in the last couple of hours.
Exactly, George. And they were watching tonight, I can tell you that. In fact, just minutes before your interview aired, you had a...
Daphne here has finally stopped scooting. It's all because of this.
Nothing about Daphne. I'm trying to see what Joe talking about. This was his. Yeah, that's the one. This one they pissed Joe off. It was right before the.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Wisconsin, Wisconsin, Wisconsin. I gotta thank somebody. Gaylord Nelson, I'm back. He first introduced me to Wisconsin a long time ago when I was a kid. I'm only 40 now, but I was a kid. Sabrina,
Joe got jokes
thank you for the introduction and for the volunteering for our campaign. And a special thanks to one of the best governors I've ever worked with in my life.
Oh, hit the like button if y'all in here. Why do I have to keep saying it? It's just a button. Just hit the like. It's free. Joe about to get married.
He's got a former governor, Jim Doyle, Madison Road, mayor of this city. And look, we got a guy who has a tough time winning an election, only gets 70% of the vote, Congressman Mark Pocan. There's so many local leaders today, including the chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, Van Wickler. Folks, did you have a good 4th of July? By the way, if you wonder whether Trump has it all together, did you ever hear how he explained the 4th of July when he was president? No, I'm serious. This is true. His explanation how America won the Revolutionary War, I'm not making this up. He said in his 4th of July speech 5 years ago, he said, George Washington's army won the revolution by taking control of the airports from the British. We talk about me misspeaking. Airports from the British in 1776. It's true, he is a stable genius, this man. My friends, I'm in Wisconsin for one reason, because we're going to win Wisconsin.
I'm going to tell y'all right now, Joe drank a couple Red Bulls before this one right here. This is not the same Joe that was at the debate.
I'll tell you how we're going to do it. You know the reason. We're going to do it because of you all in this room to start with. But we're going to stand up for women in America. We're going to restore Roe v. Wade and all the land. We're going to stand up for the right to vote again. We're going to fight for Medicare and Social Security and child care, elder care, paid leave. Oh, which grows the economy. We're going to keep lowering the cost of prescription drugs and expanding health care for everyone. Look, we're going to protect our children from getting weapons of war off our streets. That's what we're going to do. The idea that more children die from gunshot wounds in America is so wrong. It's sick. It really is sick. We're going to keep confronting climate change. The most important, we're going to save our democracy. Now, you probably heard, we had a little debate last week. Can't say it was my best performance. But ever since then, there's been a lot of speculation. What's Joe going to do?
What Joe going to do?
Is he going to stay in the race?
You going to stay, Joe?
Is he going to drop out? What's he going to do?
What is he going to do, Joe?
Well, here's my answer. I am running and going to win again.
Well, hot damn, Joe. Joe done drank some Red Bull on their ass.
Because
snorted some hunters. Oh, shut up. See, now it's Let's Go Joe. Joe done drank a case of Red Bull and got a whole Hunter stash before this right here. I'm trying to tell y'all what happened.
Well, I'm the city president of the United States of America in no small part because of you. Not a joke. In 2020, you came through for me.
Did you know there's a new form of money in America, and it's making some people very rich?
I'm a nominee of the Democratic Party. I'm a nominee of this party because millions of Democrats like you just voted for me in primaries all across America. You voted for me to be your nominee, no one else. You, the voters did that. And despite that some folks don't see me in the race.
Damn it, Joe say he ain't going nowhere.
I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020. And by the way, we're going to do it again in 2024. I learned long ago, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
Joe got up when he fell off that bike. Damn it.
And I'm not letting one 90 debate wipe out 3.5 years of work. As the governor said, I've led this nation to the depths of pandemic to the strongest economy in the world, and that's literally true. And I and you are not finished yet. And you probably also noticed about my age. I know I look 40. I keep seeing all those stories about I'm being too old. Let me say something. I was too old. I wasn't too old to create over 15 million new jobs.
Joe say he ain't too old, damn it.
21 million Americans are insured under the Affordable Care Act. To beat Big Pharma, the first one ever to do that and lower the cost of this is $35 per kidney. Because they're too old to relieve student debt for nearly 5 million Americans and grow the economy. Too old to put the first black woman on the Supreme Court of the United States of America. To sign the Respect for Marriage Act. And they're too old to sign the most significant gun safety law in 30 years. To pass the biggest climate bill in the history of the world, not here, history of the world. But then, my critics say, sure, but he did all that. But that was in the past. What about now? Well, how about the 200,000 jobs we announced yesterday?
How about reparations, Joe? Let's talk about it. How about reparations? That's all you gotta do, Joe. Every nigga in the world will vote for you. But you gonna have to send out a deposit first, because you be, all right, let me see.
So let me ask you, what do you think? You think I'm too old to restore Roe v. Wade to law of the land? You think I'm too old to ban assault weapons again? To protect Social Security and Medicare? To get child care, elder care for working families in needed nations? To make billionaires finally start to pay something beyond 8.2% of the tax rate? Let me ask you, you think I'm too old to beat Donald Trump? I can hardly wait. Anyway, folks, let's focus on what really matters. We're running against the biggest liar and the biggest threat. Oh, really? The biggest liar and biggest threat to our democracy in American history.
I told y'all, Joe won't throw them hands. I don't care what y'all talking about. Joe want to fight him.
That's not hyperbole. Over 150 presidential historians voted him the worst president in American history. No, the worst. As I've said before, he has the morals of an alley cat. He lies about the economy he created. The truth, he's one of only 2 American presidents who left office with fewer jobs than when he came into office. You know who the other was? Herbert Hoover. Fact. That's why I call him Donald Herbert Hoover Trump. He lies about the pandemic he totally boxed. The truth is, over 1 million people went on to die. He told us what? To inject bleach in our arm. It wasn't serious. He lied about how great he was for veterans in his administration. The truth, he called veterans who gave their lives serving America. And I was just in Normandy and on the beaches of Normandy and all through that area.
Don't go off track.
And he said, I have trouble saying this because my son died as a consequence of it.
Because you're going off track, Joe.
Who gave their lives, he called them, quote, suckers and losers. By the way, I'll be damned. I'm glad I wasn't with him because I'll be damned let him talk about my son that way. That's right. But how do we know he said this? And I'm not making this up. A 4-star Marine general. His own former chief of staff was with him, and he told us that's what he said. But he's not the only former Trump official warning us about how bad Trump is, including the former secretaries of defense and even his own vice president. They refused to endorse him. It says a lot about who Trump is. It says a lot about what he isn't. By the way, I couldn't ponder.
Don't risk losing the photos and videos from your phone. This innovative device makes it easy to back up your smartphone.
I guess I shouldn't say it. By the way, I couldn't be prouder to have your support and the support of our great Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Well, where's she at?
Trump is a convicted felon. Found guilty, 34.
Joe done played the felon card. See, Joe, niggas ain't you can't play that card, Joe.
Felonies. Trying to hide hush money payments to a porn star. Another jury found Trump sexually assaulted a woman in a public place and has been fined $90 million for defaming her.
Damn.
$90 million. They've only been bankrupt about 20 times, but I don't know. What? Public place and has been fined $90 million for defaming her.
Defaming?
$90 million. They've only been bankrupt about 20 times, but I don't know.
You forgot to tell him, Joe. He said, grab him by the pussy. That's all you had to say, Joe. Just
squares come out. Another jury found Trump sexually assaulted a woman in a public place and has been fined $90 million for defaming her.
He grabbed her by the pussy.
$90 million. They've only been bankrupt about 20 times, but I don't know. This so-called great businessman owes over $400 million in fines after being convicted in New York State of business fraud. Already convicted. Fined $400 million. Donald Trump isn't just a convicted criminal. He's a one-man crime wave. But Trump's biggest lie of all is he had nothing to do with the insurrection of January 6th. We all saw with our own eyes. We saw he sent thousands to attack the Capitol. We saw police being attacked, the Capitol being ransacked, the mob hunting for Nancy Pelosi.
They could have got
gallows set up to hang Mike Pence. Let me ask you something. After what Trump did on January 6th, why would anyone ever let him be near the Oval Office again? Folks, the issue of this election is, what kind of America do we want to be? What kind of America do we want to be? We want to be a country of anger, revenge, and retribution, or a country of hope and optimism and possibilities, as we've always been. I want a country where women have a right to make their own health care decisions. Trump wants an America where abortion is banned and women are punished. I want an America where health care is a right, not a privilege. Trump wants to throw tens of millions of people who couldn't get insurance any other way than Obamacare off of Obamacare. I want America where the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Trump wants to give the very wealthy an additional, last time out when he was president, he gave them a $2 trillion tax cut, creating the largest deficit any president has in one term. Now he's announced he wants another $5 trillion tax cut.
After all, around so much money, they don't even know billion or trillion. Which one, Joe?
That any president has in one term. Now he's announced he wants another $5 trillion tax cut. After already leaving the largest deficit. It's just, it's hard to make this up. I want to protect Social Security and Medicare. He wants to cut Social Security and Medicare so he can cut taxes for the very wealthy. I want to ban assault weapons, require universal background checks. You all heard the promise of the NRA, the promise of the National Rifle Association. I will do nothing about guns. That's what he said. I will do nothing about guns. And he means it. I want January 6th insurrectionists to serve their full prison terms. Trump wants to pardon you. Folks, you can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American at the same time.
I told y'all, Joe drank a case of Red Bull before. I told y'all.
This is so damn serious. You can't love your country only when you win.
They got Joe cussing.
Look, you've been standing a long time. Let me close with this. Ultimately, the American presidency is about character. The character of the president who holds the job. Because with the immunities he's talking about, the Supreme Court just talked about, it gets down to that. It gets down to that. It's about honesty. It's about the president's decency, integrity. Do they respect people? Or do they incite violence and hate? Can they honor their oath to the Constitution and uphold their oath of office? Well, I don't think it's an exaggeration to suggest Trump has failed on every one of these character tests. Every one. And what's worse, the Supreme Court has just ruled that there are virtually no limits on the power of the presidency. I know it sounds bizarre, but that's what they ruled. A frightening decision. According to the extreme majority of the Supreme Court, the president is now above the law. We just celebrated the 4th of July, saying we will not be ruled by a king. And this Supreme Court he appointed proved this new law. It's a dangerous precedent, especially if Donald Trump has returned to the presidency. Just think about it. The second term.
So if you're the president, how much can you get away with, though? Like, to what degree? With that law, which one? Like, if you the president, can you just like walk off in the bank, take all the money, and well, that's the government's anyway. So I guess you could. Well, I'm trying to figure out just how far that go. Like, if you the president, hold on, what's the name of it?
Power of the presidency. I know it sounds bizarre, but that's what they ruled.
What is it?
And what Trump has failed on every one of these character tests. Every one. And what's worse, the Supreme Court has just ruled that there are virtually no limits on the power of the presidency.
No limits.
I know it sounds bizarre, but that's what they ruled. A frightening decision. According to the extreme majority of the Supreme Court, the president is now above the law. We just celebrated the 4th of July, saying we will not be ruled by a king. And this Supreme Court he appointed proved this new law. It's a dangerous precedent, especially if Donald Trump has returned to the presidency. Just think about it. The second term, this next term, whomever is the president is going to appoint at least 2 new appointees. The second Trump term, where there are no limits. Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor warned us about that in her dissent in that case. This is it. She noted that based on a majority decision, Trump can take out his opponents, physically take them out, take bribes, lead a coup, and be immune to ever being held accountable for it if he did it while he was president, according to the Supreme Court. I mean, where the hell are we? So he really could become a dictator that he promised to be on day one. For over 2 centuries, America's been a free democratic nation. And I'll be damned if the year 2024, just 2 years before our 250th anniversary of as a nation, I'll let Donald Trump take this away. Folks, this is not hyperbole. This race is about our freedom. It's about our democracy. It's about the very soul of America. Are we prepared to fight for that? I know I am, and I will. Folks, I have never been more optimistic about America's future because the American people are decent, good, honorable. And just remember who in God's name we are. We're the United States of America. I mean, think about it. Think about it in literal terms. And there's nothing nothing beyond our capacity when we stand together. So let's stand together, win this election, and exile Donald Trump politically. God bless you all. And may God protect our troops. Thank you.
That's what Joe said. That's what Joe said. Joe said he ain't going nowhere. That's Joe said he ain't going nowhere. It's simple as that. Hey man, hit the like button on the way out of here. It's free. It don't cost nothing. Yeah. Anyway, if you ain't subscribed, subscribe, man. Long live Pimp C. Joe saying he ain't leaving. He ain't playing. He ain't.